Hey, all you beacons of light. It's Adrienne Lopez here, the Integrative Awareness Coach. How are you doing today? It is Saturday, August the 15th, and I am just coming on to give you a quick preview of the last week, 11 weeks, 77 days, right? Yeah, of meditation practices of creating your inner temple. And we are going to be focusing on the 7th chakra, the Sahasrara Chakra, also known as the 1,000-petal lotus, the gateway to God or the divine. The seed phrase is I am, or I know, I am knowing. I know divine, I know the divine knowledge. And what is that? Like, what does it mean, the divine knowledge? So, in yogic principles, and this is the reason. Well, actually, yoga was a practice, like the physical practice. Actually, it's 8 limbs, right? 8 limbs, and one of them, the Hatha yoga, is the physical postures. It's very popular. When people say I'm doing yoga, that's mostly what they are referring to, which is the physical gestures, the asanas that prepare the body for meditation. So these postures help break down our conditional thinking, the mind, and prepare the soil, let's say, for meditation. And this brings us to the idea that as we meditate, we are unveiling, we are coming to terms, we're coming to relationship with true knowledge. And this is not the kind of knowledge that you learned in school. This is like the knowledge of the objective world. This is not necessarily a religious practice or knowledge. It is like the technology, the knowledge of the energetic anatomy of the human soul. And so as we meditate more and more, we get our right relationship to knowing. And so this is, most of it can be broken down to the idea of like we have a subject and then the object. So say I see this beautiful rose, and that is the object of knowledge, the known, and then I am the knower of the rose because I see it in my faculties of my senses. I can see it, I can smell the beautiful scent, I can even feel the softness of the petals. But most of the time in our world, there's just one pointed direction out onto the object world. And the one pointed version of knowledge does not acknowledge the subject or the knower. So in this equation, we have the knower, which is ourselves. So we know the world, or I should say the mind is the knower. It knows through the senses. It comes to an object, such as a rose, and it becomes known to the mind. And so once you begin to sit in meditation, or whatever way that you practice that you find meditative, you can do it in your regular asana yoga, you can do it in walking meditations. There's many ways people meditate or become into a meditative state. And you're accessing a different type of brain wave that is not connected with the fight, flight, or freeze mode, which the mind is constantly ready to get into. It's always observing its environment, looking for safety, looking for possible threat, because that's what it does. It's the survival mode. The mind helps us survive. And so in that way, it's a bit limited because the knowledge that it seeks is not comprehensive. And so as we meditate, we begin to pull out the lens and we begin to see not just the object, but the subject observing it. So it becomes like this partnership, this duality that comes hand in hand. There's no object without the subject. There is no experience of the world without the mind observing it. And then we begin to see that it's like, oh, everything I see is a condition of my mind. And what is conditioning my mind? What is coloring my mind? That gets projected out onto the objects as a real. Like, I really see this rose. But the rose is colored by all of my thoughts about the rose, all of my conditioning about the rose, all my past history about roses. For example, I was at a meditation retreat, and this woman raised her hand, and she asked the teacher, she said, when is a cherry tree ever a cherry tree? And we're like, whoa, that's deep, man. But so what she was saying is that her grandmother, who she had a very tumultuous, abusive relationship with, had a cherry tree in her backyard. And every time she sees a cherry tree, she doesn't just see the cherry tree, she sees the whole world that was associated with that cherry tree, and that colors her feelings, how she perceives the cherry tree on an energetic level. So it's not a free experience for her to see a cherry tree. And we can take this out into every object we see, right? The mind sees it not as free, like it's not just observing the chair. Like for the first time, it's coming back with this whole web of meaning of relationships to chairs and what chairs mean, for example. And so through this, through a meditation process, we can begin to observe our consciousness and the coloring it brings to what it sees. And then there's a third position that becomes available, which is the witnessing consciousness, which is observing both the mind, the knower, observing the known, the subject. And then we have a tripart relationship. And from here, at this point, we begin to be able to access true knowledge. The observer who begins to see things for what they really are. The witnessing consciousness, which is not bound in the dualistic relationship between the knower, the known, and then the true knowledge is the witnessing consciousness, which is observing it from the top. And this is the seed phrase, I am, or I know. I am knowing, I am divine knowledge. So that's what it's referring to. And so this seventh chakra is also, it's related to our ability to connect with unity consciousness. And so this is the last thing that I'm going to share with you today. But I think it's really pertinent to how the world's unfolding right now. At least it is for me and the way that I live my life. And I think you might find some value in it for yourself. You know, moment to moment, we have a choice. We get to see things through the lens of duality, separation, and fear, or we can choose to see our world through unity, consciousness, love, connection. And so when something's happening and I choose to, give commentary about it, I can choose one of those two perspectives. And so, for example, with this pandemic that I have been experiencing for several months now, I can see it as an emergency, a health emergency. I can also see it as a healing crisis, which is calling us to healing. And not just a physical healing, but the word heal means whole. And so as an integrative awareness coach, I'm always looking at how different aspects out in the world are fractals of my own consciousness. If there's just one consciousness and we live in a quantum universe, as the quantum physicists have been telling us, and there is only one. And everything I see outside is a reflection of some aspect of myself, calling to be loved, calling to be accepted and called back home. And so when I go into creating my description of what's happening, some people might, say, well, that's really idealistic, Adrienne. You're not really informed about what's the reality of what's going on. But I would say maybe perhaps you're not informed about the nature of reality, and that we're constantly creating into possible potentialities. And so my perspective, my choice about how I see things is actually creating what's unfolding in the world. And as an observer, right? So as we talk about the uncertainty principle, which was a theory that said the observer of an experiment is actually impacting the result or the outcome of the experiment. So the observing consciousness has impact on how things unfold in their potentiality. And so even if you're like, well, maybe, isn't it worth it? Like maybe if it has a potential, if it has the ability to affect a yet to be known potential, wouldn't you want to contribute to the best and highest good through the energy of your thought and your perception and what you see as possible? And so this is a transitional time of humanity as far as the systems, the structures that are in the process of dissolving, and it's easy to go into fear about it, especially if you're watching the news. I'm sure that you have experienced that, how easy it is to have the seed of doubt or fear planted in your awareness. And it's also just as easy to choose to plant love and connection and unity and potentiality of the kind of world that you want to see created, with this knowledge of who you really are as a creator, just as we were told in the biblical sense, whatever I can do, you can do and more. Because he was talking about a principle of consciousness that is not the property of any one person, but is your birthright. And so, my friends, I think that's all I wanted to share with you about this chakra today. And we'll have our meditation tomorrow, Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this will be the 11th and last week of this meditation series, although it's all posted on my Facebook page, Mind Heart Facebook page, as well as my YouTube channel. So I invite you, if you haven't yet, to stop on by, to like, share, subscribe if you're called to do that, if you'd like to see more of my content. And I hope you guys are all well, taking care of yourself. And I hope to see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock if you can make it. And until then, please remember what a valuable treasure you are. Namaste. Bye for now.